Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Why have the first president's wife and daughter been branded the Ivory Queens? Low murmurs in Kenya, and a few brave voices like Ngina, have always linked the dwindling elephant numbers and illegal ivory trading to Ngina Kenyatta. Any questioning of Kenyatta's wealth is often met with silence, as the first family tries all means to protect it. At one point, Jimmy Wanjiji noted that Kenyatta's money is a live wire topic. However, it is revealed with certainty that Ngina Kenyatta is the accused Ivory Queen, and her family benefited immensely from the illegal trade as Kenya's jumbo population dwindled. As Jomo Kenyatta noted after Kenya gained independence, "It is our time to feed." Well, his family really lived up to this promise. In 1970, it was officially claimed that Kenya was home to 275,000 elephants. By 1977, that massive number had been halved. By 1989, it had been reduced to 20,000. Commercial poachers had killed more than 90% of Kenya's elephants in less than 20 years. This level of poaching was unprecedented anywhere in Africa. John Hoyt, an author and researcher, indicated that senior government officials, especially close members of the Kenyatta family, were involved in the poaching, while government vehicles were used to ferry the game trophies from the wildlife sanctuaries to depots for international market. The author singled out Mama Ngina for the butcher of the wildlife, suggesting that although she did not personally pull the trigger or unleash a poisoned arrow on elephants, she was the matron of illegal ivory poachers. Charles Hornsby, in his book Kenya, A History Since Independence 1963 to 2011, explains how well-connected cartels smuggled several kinds of game trophy contraband to Asian countries to mint millions of US dollars. The ivory and skins recovered from the butchered animals were smuggled into Hong Kong, Japan, and China, where there was an insatiable demand. He records that at least 15,000 elephants were killed each year during the 1970s and 1980s. Whilst 10,000 black rhinos were shot between 1973 and 1979. Much as this is the case, it is important to note that ivory trading was not always illegal. Actually, Kenya banned the sale of ivory and elephant hunting in 1973. In 1963, the first year of independence, the Kenyan government issued 393 permits hunting licenses for elephants. So how was Ngina tied to the illegal trade? On May 22, 1975, John Tinker wrote in the New Scientist magazine that the United African Corporation Kenya Limited was being used for this trade. The United African Corporation Kenya Limited was a key exporter of ivory to China, Hong Kong, and Japan. Records at that time showed that Margaret Kenyatta held 16% shares in the company, which was registered in 1964. However, by 1974, she held 49% and had become chairperson of the company. The article further noted that the company had illicitly sent over 6 tons worth $200,000 to People's Republic of China. Margaret Kenyatta was Jomo Kenyatta's daughter from his first marriage to Grace, and would later become Nairobi's first female mayor. Ngina and Margaret were using the company to export the ivory illegally. The CIA also confirmed this in an African Review report of 1978 upon Kenyatta's death. The report noted that besides their other activities, Mama Ngina and Margaret Kenyatta are probably the country's 2 largest charcoal and ivory traders, particularly lucrative businesses. Although the export of these items is banned because depletion of Kenya's forests and wildlife threaten the underpinnings of the Kenyan economy. Both women have been able to obtain special licenses and are rumored to be involved in smuggling. For instance, shortly after a ban on ivory exports, except for tusks from elephants dead of natural causes or shot for control purposes, went into effect, the United Africa Corporation, whose chairman and chief stockholder is Margaret Kenyatta, received an export license for 1,250 baby elephant tusks. It is surprising that the Ivory Queens did not even spare the baby elephants. It is alleged that the permanent banning of ivory trade and hunting was at the sole instigation of Ngina Kenyatta. This was the final and cataclysmic event by which she rid herself of the only opposition she had ever had to her poaching activities. There was no wildlife management reason given for that hunting closure. There was no reason for it. It was simply a presidential decree issued by Ngina Kenyatta for her own selfish and personal reasons. At the time, Ngina and her stepdaughter were earning over 800 million shillings a year, as the elephant population declined by 20,000 annually. Local and international newspapers were condemning the activities by the first family during this period. When Ngina and the first family could not cope with the national and international condemnation anymore, they issued a 5-page statement through the Kenya news agency to dismiss the poaching allegations. The lengthy report dismissed as false allegations that Ngina was involved in poaching, terming the accusations as blackmail, and scandal, further dismissing the figures of dwindled elephant stocks as guesswork. The government statement also asserted that Kenya was attempting to control poaching. It also said that Kenyans are mature, independent people, and that the heritage of the elephant population belongs to Kenyans who will decide what to do with our sovereign right. We do not believe that scandalizing and blackmailing the people and the government of Kenya is the best method of wildlife conservation, reads the report. As the government continued protecting the Kenyatta family, the national heritage was being purloined by the Ivory Queens. Political leaders, including Raila and Kalonzo, have failed to ask for accountability and have rather asked Kenyans to remain silent and forget. As one writer has noted, the template of silence and amnesia has worked for decades. But I fear that a new generation won't be as readily cowed by respect or fear. They will ask questions across the board. Leave a comment, like, and hit the follow button to support our work.